we're going to introduce Module 7, Recovery. This module is divided in 4 topics. We are first going to take a look at the introduction to define the most important concepts related to recovery. Then we will go to identify the recovery business opportunities. And then we will take a look at some strategies for eco-design and for spare parts, and how to design for an easy disassembly and recyclability. And then we will take a look at the reverse logistics concept. In the frame of this course, we will use the definition provided by the Waste Framework Directive of the European Union. Taking a look at the European Union waste hierarchy, we see that recovery is the last step before disposal. Recovery goes besides recycling. Actually, it encompasses the whole process of replacing a raw material by a secondary raw material in a process or a product. See here that recovery is here, and we have to consider that for a waste to be considered a secondary raw material, it has to fulfill the following criteria. It has to be submitted to a recovery operation. It should have potential for applications for being applied at a purpose. It must be lawful. Of course, it must fulfill regulations and laws in where it's going to be used. And of course, the secondary raw material can have negative impacts neither in human health or in the environment. It's important to remember that to enable recovery processes, it's necessary to create circular value chains so the secondary raw material will be valuable. It means that we have to provide a value for this secondary raw material we want to use or to sell. Here in the screen, you can see methodologies for designing a process or a product with an end-of-life approach. It means that when designing a product, you have to consider how is it going to be treated or managed at the end of its life. And those strategies, you can of course find more information of them both in the material provided and online. Those strategies are useful for keeping the value of the materials or the different parts of your products after the end of life of your product or your process. Presented here is a conceptual framework for extending the value of your product when developing a business model. It's a useful tool, a conceptual tool of course, that you can consider or you can use when you are designing a new process or a new product for your business and you want to see how it can impact environment and how you can create more circular products. In this slide, you can see some business models that aim to close the circularity gap. They aim to take an end-of-life product and provide a second life to it. The examples shown here are the business model that supplies recaptured material. It can also be a refurbisher. You can be a second-hand seller. You can sell second-hand products or materials or products. You can be a remanufacturer, or you can make a business based on a recycling facility. Now, let's take a look at some questions that we can consider. Is there a product that has no use that could be applied somewhere else, either in your business or in another operation? Will you use byproducts coming from another companies or operations? Is there a way in which you could redesign your products or even your processes to make their components more recyclable, more easily recoverable? What are the processes that you could use to recover waste from your products? Are you considering any ways or methodologies to maximize the use of the materials and resources that you already have? Please remember that those ideas do not only provide more sustainability for your business, but they are also supposed to provide more economic benefit, more economic sustainability. Now, in the topic number 2, we are going to identify those business opportunities that can emerge from recovery operations. Last, we have to remember that circular economy must be circular, but it also must be economically feasible. Thereby, we are going to need the creation of sustainable, economically sustainable business models that can work on the recovery processes. Understanding the context in which we are working, we have to remember that plastics are a material whose demand has been rising from the moment they were created. At the same time, the demand for recycled plastics or biologically based plastics has been also rising the last few years. Recovery of plastics seems to be a promising sector in which business can be developed, profitable business can be developed. Here we can see the evolution of the demand of recycled plastics. Not the demand actually, sorry. We can see the content of recycled plastics in different applications. Considering the size of the potential business in the plastics recovery sector, here we can see some statistics on the number of plastics that were recovered and that were sent for recycling in the year 2020. We have to remember that the sector with the highest demand of plastic and the highest production of waste is the sector packaging. It's also important to notice that the plastic sectors, the recovery processes are not as easy as they are in other sectors. For sure, you can think on food packaging sector or even in the health material sector. Those plastics are going to need to fulfill some regulations and some quality requirements. In this context, several objectives have been defined for improving the plastic recyclability and the potential international exchange of plastics. We need to define a global regulatory framework to define the best quality standard for recycled materials, especially in key sectors, as I said before, in health, packaging, and other similar sectors. Of course, we need to create a way in which the material can be traced. Have to create a material traceability system. The European Union is going for the digital material passport, which is being included in the newest regulation, the most updated ones. It's also needed to improve and enhance the transparency and communication amongst different companies. It's also necessary to promote industrial symbiosis among local stakeholders to reduce the number of transports of material and thereby reduce the carbon footprint of the processes. It's also very important to improve the waste collection and the capacity for sorting waste after in post-consumer phase. And nevertheless, it's also crucial to enhance the recovery processes and being able to guarantee the needed quality of the recovered materials. It is essential to understand that it is a perfect moment for investing and developing new business models related to circular economy on plastics, especially in Europe. The needs that we previously discussed represent opportunities to innovate and develop new techniques that can enable and improve the recovery processes throughout Europe. The potential for implementing circular practices is quantified in billions of euros. We have to remember that Europe has a strong commitment investing high amounts of money in supporting recycling and recovery processes. We also need to remember that especially chemical recycling is going to be supported by the European Union, creating a good number of business opportunities. We are going to start with the third topic of the model. Here we will see a series of strategies to improve the recovery processes at the end of life of the product. You can see in the slide, strategies focus on promoting sustainability and reducing the waste production at the end of life of the product. The main point of the strategies are to extend the lifespan of the products, to minimize the consumption of resources, and to improve the repairability and the reusability. What are the benefits that those processes, those strategies can provide to your business? You will reduce the environmental impact of your product, you will help promoting circular economy, you will improve the resource efficiency. A proper application of those strategies also should lead to cost savings to reduce the cost of your production. It will improve the satisfaction of your consumers, and it will help providing a positive image of your brand and your business. It's very important to remember that around 80 to 90% of the cost of the recovery process can be determined during the design phase. Thereby, proper eco-design approach will help reduce the cost of the product. We see the 6 main aspects of eco-design. Following this approach, we have to achieve an extension of the product lifespan. We have to enable an easy disassembling process. We have to think in how are we going to recover the material. We have to include recycling-friendly materials in the design. We have to create a system for traceability to provide the documentation to have all the information needed for the product recovery. And we have to establish a proper collaboration all along the value chain. Extending product lifespan implies enabling repair, maintenance, and the replacements of the components that might be broken. Related to this, enable an easy disassembling will help replace the components and will help separating the different parts when you reach the moment for recycling. Thinking on material recovery means that you have to include or prioritize those materials that can be easily recyclable. Even more, you are supposed to allow an easy separation of the materials and even marking them in a way that it can be visible or somehow detected, in a way that you can actually segregate the different materials making the recycling process easier and more cost efficient. Selecting the materials, you have to try to find recycling friendly materials. Those are the materials that have a properly established system for recycling, instead of those materials that cannot be easily recycled or don't have a market to be sold after the recycling. When providing a proper documentation and traceability, you help recyclers to understand the different materials and how to recycle them. Especially relevant are those materials which can be dangerous or threatening for health or environment. The last step is to establish the proper collaboration in the value chain. It implies the collaboration amongst different parts of the value chain, all along the value chain. Creating proper recovery processes will enable the creation of closed-loop systems in which materials are continuously recycled and reused. Now we are going to see some practical applications of eco-design strategies that are nowadays in the market. In the smartphone sector, we can see that some brands prefer to use modular devices in which the different components can be easily replaced. This way you can easily change the battery, screen, or some other parts of the phone in such a way that if they are either broken or they are not updated, you can change and improve them without the need to change the whole phone, enabling this way an extension of the lifespan. We have also the case of IKEA. They have some pieces of furniture whose components can be easily replaced. This way, some of them are broken or can be improved. You can disassemble them by yourself and installing the new ones without the need for specialized techniques or specific tools. And more, some laptop brands design their products in such a way that common users can easily replace some parts of the hardware. Thereby, they can improve the capacity of the laptops or update them without the need to buying a new one. This way they also extend the lifespan of the product. In the sector of packaging, there are several strategies that can be used. For example, they can use monomaterials, which are packaging that are made of only one material, making them way more easy to be recycled. Other approaches promote the use of reusable packaging that can be used many times without the need to dispose them. Other good ideas are the possibility to include very easy to remove labels, so you can create actually a waste that has only one material and improve the recyclability. The same approach can be used in the automotive industry and also in the building materials sector. It's also based in the idea of creating components that are easy to remove and easy to exchange for others. If you are interested in finding more information, you can use the links that you see in the screen. And now we are going to see the topic number 4 of the model. This topic is focused on the concept of reverse logistics. The reverse logistics is the process of taking the products from the final consumer to the original producer. This way, the idea of extended producer responsibility can actually be applied. The idea of reverse logistics is divided in 5 steps. Different steps depend on the state of the product after its use. Either it can be directly resold, or it might need some reparations to be put again into the market. Logistics can be applied in different ways. Here you have the different types of reverse logistics, which are called the reverse logistics components. When you start thinking about implementing a process of reverse logistics, you have to keep in mind the different benefits that this process can provide to your business. Here in the screen, you can see the main advantages that a reverse logistic process will provide. The reverse logistics is an idea that is still in development. Here you can see 7 strategies that may help optimizing the performance of your reverse logistic system. Logistics from the idea of green logistics, which are a series of strategies or processes to make your logistic process more green, more sustainable. Of course, the reverse logistics idea should be applied differently depending on the sector in which you work. It's not the same working in construction, in beverage, breweries, or food industry. You have to identify which are the items you want to focus on. We can see some different examples of how different industries apply the idea of reverse logistics. We have the textile industry, in which they remake or make new jeans with the textiles extracted from old ones. You can also see Procter & Gamble and PepsiCo, Unilever, who are shifting towards reusable packaging. They are supposed to clean the packaging of their products and then put it into market again, use them again when putting them into market. Main challenge here, of course, is how to get those containers, those packaging devices from the consumers in a way that is profitable. We can also see here the Home Depot and the Cisco remanufacturers, in which they remanufacture the hardware of different devices. So this is the end of the video, so please remember, go into the PowerPoint presentation, download it, read it by yourself, and check in the different links we provide to extend information. Thank you, and see you in the next module.